Good morning, virtual villagers. I'm Kate from What Kate Made. Today we're doing a session on using up scraps of fabric to make a little collage of birds. Um, as you will be aware if you watch me regularly, I'm a fabric scavenger. I go out and buy bits in charity shops just because I love the fabric and then reuse it for something else. Now, there's quite a lot to pack in today, so I am going to turn the camera down and get started straight away, introduce things as we go. So if you just bear with me while I tip you down. And let me just tighten that so you don't fall flat on your face. See my hands? Yeah. Okay, now I'm going to show you. There was a template that went with this feature. I'm not sure whether you've been able to get it, but basically there was two styles of birds. There was this one, which is just a single bird. Lost some of the templates now. And there is also ones that were a set that kind of sit up. Here we go, there they are. So there was ones going that way and there was ones going that way, and they're to go together to make a picture. But I'm going to show you, that's my second bit, so hopefully we'll have plenty of time. But I am going to show you the basics of how to construct one of these fabric birds. Now the first one I'm going to do with whole pieces of fabric, although saying that they're not there are scraps of fabric, but I'm going to cut the whole shape out of one piece rather than putting lots of bits together to cut the shape out. So what I've got here is, this is my template. I've also got my bits of fabric. Now this, I had these lovely velvet fabrics. I actually bought a bag of like matching scraps. It's got threads and wools and fabrics and all sorts of things in it, and I've gradually been using it for different projects. So what I've got here is this sort of pinky brown velvet, which I'm going to use for the body. Sorry, I've got this lovely red velvet, so I'm going to use that for the breast, so it's going to look a little bit like a robin. I've got this fabric, which is a cotton, and it's dark, and I'm going to use that for the wing. So the way we do this, it's like an applique, but we're using we're using Bondaweb. This is just a scrap of it. It's got glue on one side. You can just about actually see there the matrix of glue because it's come off, the paper's come off it, and it's got paper on the other. So what you do is you iron it, not on the right side, on the wrong side of your fabric, and then you can draw around your template on the paper side. Where's the wing? Like that, and then you can cut it out. You peel the paper backing off, and it's got glue on the other side. So it's applique made easy. So you will need an iron. I'm just going to let mine warm up a little bit. So I've got, let me move these to one side. I have this amazing craft iron. It's looking a bit grubby actually, I have to clean it. I absolutely love it. It was a treat I bought myself at Christmas. And this is a ironing mat. It's supposed to reflect the heat back. I'm not really sure whether it does, but it does stop me burning the table. So I'm just going to leave the iron to just warm up a little bit longer. Now this is the fabric I'm going to use. I'm just going to give it a bit of a trim. I don't need all of this because I'm just going to cut the wing out of it. So let me just snip off those bits of stray frayed bits. Can you see me okay? I am trying to get you up live, but it doesn't always work. Oh, there we go. It's disappeared. Just bear with me a second. Ah, there we go. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to iron it just to get the creases out because it's been in a bag. So see how wonderful this iron is. I just love it, and the shape of it is brilliant for crafts because you can get it into corners, you can do straight edges, particularly when you're doing the Bondaweb, because you want to get to the edge of it, but you don't want to go over the edge and stick it to your mat. So that's nice and smooth now. The piece I want to cut out is this bird wing, so I don't need very much. So that little scrap I showed you before, that'll be enough. Now there's two ways to do this. You can either draw around and cut out your shape on the Bondaweb first and then cut it out on the fabric, but I prefer to do it the other way. I'm only going to use enough Bondaweb. This is why I save all my little scraps of Bondi web. I'm only going to use enough to cut that shape out, because then I don't want a piece of fabric with Bondi web on that I'm not going to use. Okay, so I'm going to put that in that corner. Now, when you're ironing the Bondi web, you really want to just hold your iron on it for a few seconds and then move it, just to press quite hard to make sure it sticks. The fun bit is when you try to peel the backing off. Now it has stuck to my underneath mat a little bit there. I'm going to have to watch that because it's going to make a mess of my mat. Right, so with a pencil and the wing shape, which is the one I want to cut out of this, I've written on them what's on them. I always print my templates out on card, and I have a load of this dark red card I can't use for anything else, just so that I can reuse them time and again. But it doesn't matter, you can print them out on paper as well. So that's my shape cut out. So I'm going to cut this out. This is where I have a bit of dilemma. My fabric scissors, which I would normally use on fabric, this has got glue on it. I don't want to cut the glue, so I have to kind of like use my oldest scissors because they'll get glue on. It doesn't matter, they still cut. But I'm a bit picky about my scissors. In my family will know that they must never ever ever use my fabric scissors for anything on pain of death. And these were my fabric scissors and have been made redundant, but they're a bit gluey. So that's the shape cut out. Now the other two pieces of fabric I'm going to use, I've already put the Bondi web on, and I'm going to hope that the shape fits on it just. So this is the body shape. Normally I wouldn't cut the beak out. On the other templates, the beak is, I'm going to be struggling at the tail a bit. The beak is very thin, so I don't cut round it because it's too difficult to do. But this one's got a big beak, and we can colour it in later. That's the breast piece. So this isn't on the template, but basically I got my bird and I put it on some paper and I drew around it and then made a breast piece. So I'm going to do that in the red, and again I'm going to get it quite close to the edge, so that, because with this piece I could probably reuse the other scraps of red. I'm very frugal. Some people would call it mean, but I don't. So I'm just going to quickly cut these shapes out. Actually, they're not going to work. They're not sharp enough anymore. There's always a dilemma for crafters with glue scissors, because scissors, if you're cutting things with glue on, it can ruin your scissors. Now, the good thing about the Bondi web, in my opinion, they're no good either, is with fabrics like this, the velvet, there will be a lot of fluff and fray under normal circumstances, but the Bondi web makes it stable, so it doesn't fray, which is what we want. Now you'll notice this bird has no legs. What we're going to do is we are going to I'm just fudging the tail a little bit because it's slightly off the what was I saying? Oh yeah, we're going to do some embroidery on this bird when it's finished. So we will embroider the legs on. Legs are too hard to cut out because they're very thin. So this is the breast piece. In a minute I'll show you how it's going to look when it's assembled, hopefully. Right, save that for later. Let me just get rid of my fluff off my ironing pad. So that's the body of the bird. That's the breast piece. That's going to go in there. Where's the wing gone? There it is. And the wing is going to go there. And we're going to slightly overlap it onto the back and onto the tail. Now those pieces we are now going to stick together with the Bondi web. I'm not going to take the backing off the back of the bird because we will then stick this onto something else. So you can make your bird and you can put it onto like a jacket or a bag or whatever you want to put it on. So we're going to leave the backing on the bird, and we're just going to applique, if you like. I say applique in general terms. because it's not really applique, it's just sticking on, but it'll look like applique. We might do some, we're going to do some sewing around the edges so we can go. Now, getting the backing off this bond web can be a bit tricky. Quite often, it's a good idea if you pierce the paper with a pin, and if your edges are not quite stuck down and it won't separate, just put your iron on it again. The only unfortunate thing about this iron is it doesn't seem to have a temperature control, but it doesn't really matter because it's for crafting. So, right, now that might peel off a bit better now that it's warm. Ah, you know, I should have done this earlier. I'm always the same with double-sided tape as well. I can't always get the backing off. Anybody got any clues as to how to do this? Let me know. It looked like it was moving then, but what you don't want to do is peel off and leave the, not have the glue left behind. There we go. So you can just about see, I think, there's this faint matrix of glue on there now. So what I'm going to do is place it, oh, wrong way around, place it on there, and then go at it with my iron again. Now, it isn't foolproof, Bondaweb. I would recommend that you stitch around the edge with a bit of embroidery, just because it tends to, oops, it tends to come away after time. So we've got a little bit of fraying going on, but I think that's just because of the velvet. So you can see now we've got our red breast on our bird. So the next thing is, this is the wing, which is a slightly different fabric. It's a cotton. So give me a minute again while I get my pin under. Sometimes if you bend it over, you get a, there we go. Doesn't help I haven't got any nails, they all broke at the weekend. Gardening. I was just saying before we went on, come on air, I belong to a community gardening group, and we've got a sort of demonstration garden going on, how to grow and manage your garden in an eco-friendly way, and it's fascinating for me. I'm learning all sorts. Is anybody out there watching? Right, so that's my wing, and I want that to go there, I think. Right, so again, press it with the iron, which is now getting a bit very dirty. We'll have to have a clean after this. So it's starting to look like a bird now. All it's lacking is a beak and an eye. So I am going to, I have these beads, tiny black seed beads, the glass ones. I use them for eyes on all sorts of things, birds, small animals I'm doing. They're great if you do needle felting, all those kind of things. But the disadvantage for me is you need a tiny needle, and my eyesight's not awfully good. However, here's one I prepared earlier. I could not have threaded this live online. Now that's the wrong colour. I want the black one, because it's an extra long, extra thin needle. So I've got doubled up thread knotted it at the end so that I can make a little loop. Now at this point we may have to peel the paper backing off, because it's going to go right through. The sewing's going to go right through, but we're not going to iron anything else, so that's fine if I can get it off. If not, I'll just go through it and tear it. Oh dear. There we go. You can see better the glue on there. Right, now this is another thing. When I said about scissors and glue, it's the same for needles and glue. I'm going to just, with my disappearing gel pen, which You've seen me use a lot of time. I'm going to just look at this bird and see where the eye is. So this is my template, although my bird's the other way around. So the eye is sort of on a line with the top of the beak, so that's about there. Something to write on the velvet, but that's just so I know where I'm going to put my eye. And then I'm going to come up there and then go back down without pulling it right through. And the loop on the thread where I knotted it, I can put my needle through it and that anchors the needle. And then I'm going to get my tiny bead. I can get one out, put that there. To be so careful and put the lid back on this because I'm very clumsy and I do not want to send that whole pot of beads all over the floor. Come back up where you want your eye to be. Thread your needle through the hole in your teeny tiny bead. Oops. If you don't have teeny tiny beads, you can use a small button. Well, that's come right through. Right, bear with me a second. The fabric's not playing ball. I haven't got my little helper with me today. My little doggy. I think he must be asleep downstairs because normally he would have come up by now. So that's there, that's better. Now I'm going to find the hole in the bead, thread it on all the way down to the bottom, and then just go through with a couple of stitches. So I'll go through it once and then I'll come back up and go through it again. Now, one thing I never thought about, if you used white thread, you might get that little highlight. Can't find the hole now. That makes the eye just come alive, but these beads are shiny, so they do catch the light. So that's the bead secure. I'm just going to knot it off at the back. It's actually not too gluey, this, so it's not really messed up my needle. Okay, so what we want to do now, I think, is colour the beak in because the beak is darker. Now you could use a little bit of fabric, but what I want to do is, I wanted to, just bear with me a second. I haven't got the dark embroidery thread. I'm going to embroider it with a sort of satin stitch. This is very dark brown embroidery thread. So I'm going to cut off a decent length of that. I'm not going to split it because I want it to be quite dense. So I'll thread this onto one of my long embroidery needles and put a knot in the other end. Although it's not necessary to put a knot in because you're going to glue it on. It's going to be hidden anyway. Ruth's giving me a suggestion. Thank you, Ruth, about how to deal with my paper backing. Thank you. She says score it with a pin, which is what I'm trying to do, but I'm not very good at it. So I think that beak is a little bit chunky for what I want. So I'm just going to trim a little bit and make it a little bit more delicate. I think that's my cutting out skills. That's a bit better. That's a bit more like the bird. So I'm going to do a satin stitch. I'm trying to think the best way to do it because I don't want to score through this fabric where it's quite thin. So I've come up there. This is going to be the edge line of my beak. And I'm going to go down. That's not really going to work. Maybe I can do this and do it like over and over because it is going to be stuck down. So problem is this fabric is fraying at the edge. It's not happy. Nope, that's not going to work. Let's have a think. Cut that off. Best laid plans, eh? Do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to leave it just like that for now. I'm going to come back to that. When it's on the fabric that's going to be backed onto, it will be easier to sew. Believe me. Right. How are we doing for time? Right. I'm just going to pop that to one side. I want to come back and show you how to fasten it to a backing fabric, but I want to show you another method of making fabric from scraps. So again, we're going to use the Bonder web and we're going to make our own fabric. I do a thing called crazy quilting, which I love. I don't do a lot of it. I'm not good at patchwork quilting, but crazy quilting is me because it's scraps all randomly joined together. I do it. So this is an example. I do it on the sewing machine. My sewing machine has various stitches. It's got various embroidery stitches. So I do different ones, and you just basically stitch your scraps of fabric together to make a new fabric. So that's how it's done. But if you don't have a sewing machine, this can be a bit difficult. Now, with our sitting up bird, the group of birds we're going to work with, I've done 2 here. These are ready to, because I want to show you how to assemble. This one is fabric I've sewn together in the crazy quilting method. This one is just fabric fastened onto the Bonder web. So what you can do is that holds all your fabric together. When you peel the backing off, you can embroider along the edges to join them. You don't have to, but it just gives it a nice finish and a bit more interest. Now I've done 2 birds. I've started one of the sitting down birds. Again, this is one I've sewn together. But the 3rd bird, or 4th bird, I should say, I'm going to make. So these are the templates with the wing. I'm going to make a piece of fabric using the Bonder web method to show you how it's done. Now let me get my Bonder web. I'm going to draw the shape on the Bonder web first. This just helps me get a piece of fabric that's big enough. And the way I know it's big enough is I cut the Bonder web out bigger than the shape I've drawn on it. Okay, so don't need that now. So then I'm going to cut, looking for the right scissors, cut that piece of Bonder web out. And now I'm going to cut out my scrappy bits of fabric to add to this. So the way you do it is, I keep saying so, sorry. I've got my bits of fabric here. I'm going to use some of the ones that, oops, just don't want to cut my birds up, put them to one side. I've got loads of bits of fabric in here that I use, the ones I've used in the other birds, so they all kind of like toned together. So this was a particular favourite because it's a nice linen-y fabric, so I'm going to use some of that. This one's quite good for a wing, so I might put that to one side. This sort of tie-dye fabric, I don't want too many darks in it, so I'll put some of that yellow. Use that spotted one. That's the same one for the I've got loads of wings already cut out. There's this gauzy fabric. Now this is lovely, but I would sew that on by hand after because it might melt in the iron, so I'm just going to put that to one side. There's a bit of felt there as well. We might not use that, that's too thick. So what you do is you get your chosen fabrics and you start cutting them into scraps. Not too small, otherwise it'll be like you'll be there forever. And we want to make it cover that piece of paper. So I'm going to start by doing some corners. That fills in some straight edges. So just cutting the corners off my fabric. You can overlay them, overlap them. It doesn't really matter. So unfortunately I've got a bit of a curl in the blender where it's like, let me roll it that way and see if it will lie flat. So I'm going to start by putting these corners on. Now I did learn a lesson, you'd think. I want my glue to be on the back side of my fabric, and that's what I did wrong last time. So what I'm going to do is actually put the fabric on the ironing mat in such a way that it'll be big enough, just because you want it to be, you want to iron on the wrong side of your fabric, the glue, not the other way around, which is what was going to happen if some of the fabrics don't have a wrong side. Now if I just check that is, I need to just move these top ones up a little bit. I just want it to be roughly the same size. There's only one bit at the bottom where my bird goes right to the edge, so that's the bit I'll have to make sure I fill in. So then I'm just going to cut random shapes. I like curves, so I'm going to cut some curves and little triangles. This one I'm going to cut, there's not much of this fabric left and I want to use it all, so I'm just going to cut it like that. What else haven't I used? Some more of this orange spot, we quite like that. Again, I'm going to cut, if you've got any edges that are like that, I've got a raggy edge, just trim them straight, because that would be difficult to sew around later. I'm going to cut some little curves. I tend to not cut circles, I don't know why, but I just like curves. So what we're going to attempt to do is make this a collage. This is a true collage of fabric, and we're going to fill all the gaps in. If there's any awkward shapes, just give them a little bit of a trim, like that one. I'm going to cut that to a curve, and I might cut off that point because that will be difficult to sew as well. So remembering to put it right side up, we're now going to patchwork it together, and we want to try not to get two fabrics together. If you've got a curve one way and a curve the other, you can fit a curve in. Well, I haven't got that. That will go there. So you carry on. I'm just going to start putting these down willy-nilly because I'm conscious of time getting away from us. Now that's ideal for filling in that gap there, that long, straight, narrow gap. That'll go on. Oops, make sure I get it on the right way around. That'll go on that curve. Let's cut some more of this orange. Fill that edge gap in. Straight bit across there. Cut that a bit narrow. Let's cut another piece. That will fill that gap in there. Right, so now we've got some little gaps, so we will just put bigger pieces over them. More of that yellow, which we haven't used very much of. In fact, I think I've got one more piece of a nice linen-y fabric will go on there. And the last bit I'll do the yellow. Might want to cut that again. So you can see, it's almost like a jigsaw, isn't it? Any bits, when you've done your ironing, any bits that have got gaps, you can always fill in with beads or embroidery. That's the nice thing about crazy quilting. So I think we're more or less there. Just gonna, now this is the bit where it could all go very wrong, but we hope it won't. I'm going to take that bit off because it's got a bit of a curl. It's not going to stay on. and move that. It is very delicate. I'm gonna go on with it. I'm gonna take my courage and just do it now. So I'm putting my Bondo web on so that it's the shape where the beak is there. You can see the edge of the fabric, and it's covering the tails going right to the edge. All the bits are on it, and then I'm going to use my iron again, my lovely crafty iron, and just iron that on. Blanket stitch for the edge, Teresa, that's a really good idea. I like blanket stitch. If you were watching last week, last time, sorry, it wasn't last week, when I did my fabric covered books, which I used the same fabric pack for actually, I did do some blanket stitch. So we've now got our piece of fabric. We just cut it out. Scissors. I'm going to cut the beak in this one again. I know I said I don't usually cut beaks, but I will embroider on it afterwards. These scissors are a little bit blunt, but again, it's the glue element. Now, most of the embellishment on these is going to be sewn. On the other one, where I cut up the wing and the breast separately, I'm not going to with these because they have a lot of detail in them already. Now, I have got a big bit of spare fabric there. I can use that for something else. Maybe use it for a wing on another bird that has got a solid body. Waste not, want not. Okay, so put our scraps to one side. So there's our bird. Beautiful. So we've now got our 3 birds. What time have we got? We're okay for a little bit longer. I'm just going to briefly show you where the birds are going to sit, and then I'm going to carry on. So I've got this lovely fabric that I've had for ages, and I want to make like a collage on it. I've also got this fabric, which is these are table napkins, and what I've done on this is sew on some interfacing, not Bondo web, because I just want to cut out a branch shape out of it. So I'm going to do that just freehand, said she. I'm going to make it knotty, and it's already got a sort of bend in it. It might be that it's too long. The branch is too long for the amount of interfacing I've put on it is too long for what I want it to do, but I want it to sort of taper at the end. Right, so I'm going to, this is what I'm hoping to do. Have my branch, maybe do it that way actually, and then sit my birds on it. I've put them all. Yes, the birds are made earlier. Where have I put them? In the little envelope. No. Oh, here they are. So the upright ones will sit like that. Now that needs a bead adding and a beak. The one we've just done, where have I put that one? I've got that other, I've got this one to cut out. Where's that other one? Gosh, I've just done it. Never mind, it'll turn up. I'm going to cut this one out just to give you an idea of how it's gonna look. So this is one I machine embroidered together. This one is the other sort of patchworky one I did, just with the Bondo web. I am resorting to my good scissors with the glue, you know, it's really not on. So don't worry about if you've machined this and you're then cutting through your lines. Don't worry about that, because it won't fray with the Bonder web. Right. So this is another bird. I might have needed a longer branch. I don't know. I might not put them all on that bird. And what I'm going to do is sew them on. So I'm going to arrange these onto this backing, sitting on the branch, Bonder web them on, and then embroider over them. So that's what I intend to do eventually. Now, going back to our other bird. There's my other birds. The ones I've already cut out. This one. So this is what we're going to end up doing. The 4-bird set of templates it is ideal for that that piece. I'm going to use in the middle of a cushion. So I'm going to make a cushion back out of that stretch of fabric that has the branch on it, with the birds all sitting on it. So I've got these birds and these birds for that. This one I am probably going to put on a bag or something similar. You can embroider around the edges. I did say we'd come back to that. So as the suggestion was blanket stitch, I think I'm going to use this nice golden brown and go around the edges. Now I will split the floss for this, if I can get any off, because it's too thick, the edging. I don't know what I've been using this for, to wind it on like that. I'll take one strand. Right, so I'm going to split this. You can also add embroidery to your scrappy bits on that you've glued together, and make a similar effect to the machine sewn one. Let me just, doesn't want to split. Everything's going against me today. This is what it's like with crafting. Some days you just fly through things, and some days it's just rubbish. And today's one of those days. And my craft room's a mess, which it's always a mess, but I've got to tidy up today. So nice. I don't think I'll get that through that. I need a needle with the big eye because I can't see, and they're all threaded up with other stuff. I have invested in some needle threaders for those needles that are a little bit more uncompromising, should we say. So blanket stitch is, I'll give you a quick demo. Put a knot in the end of your, this is splitting. I've split the embroidery floss from 6 strands to 2 strands. I'm going to go around the wing with it. So I put a knot in the end. I'm going to bring my thread up as far as the knot. Then what I'm going to do is go back through very close, bring the needle up. I'm aware I'm upside down. Let me get that out of the way because that's confusing. Bring the needle up like that, so it's through, but it's pointing upwards. Then you wrap the long thread round, and then when you pull it up, you get, like, the first stitch is always a little bit difficult, but you get a sort of blanket edge, like you see on the edge of blankets. I'm just trying to think. Bring it up, wrap it, and then that, as long as you take your needle behind your thread behind your needle every time, it will make this little, can you see, edging. It doesn't show very well there, but once you get here, it's like I can't describe it really, but when your needle comes up, you take your long end and you just wrap it round your needle, and it creates a sort of ladder effect. I can't quite describe it, but if you let me do a few stitches, when you get so that it's inside the you know, you're not on the edge, it will you will need to do. So you go up, down through the wing, up through the edge, wrap the thread round. I'm aware I'm not showing you very well, but you can see the effect. Now it's come unthreaded. So you go, I'll try and do it so you can see better with my hands out the way. So you take your needle down and then up again at the edge of your piece you're embroidering round. Take your long end, wrap it round the back of the needle, and then just pull the needle through, and it creates this little loop. So Pauline's asking about the Bonder web again. You have your fabric. When you're attaching, let me find a fabric that's got an obvious back and front. This is the right side of your fabric. You don't want the Bonder web on that. You want the Bonder web on the back of your fabric, so the wrong side of your fabric. And where's the little bit? This is the Bonder web. There's the gluey bit. One side's gluey, you can feel it. The other side is just paper. The glue goes to the back of your fabric. Then when you peel the paper off, so that glues it down. So you run the iron over it, glues it down. When you peel the paper off, you've got, I'll show you, you've got glue on the back of your fabric. So I'm just gonna, I don't want to iron my fingers. Okay. Then when we peel it off, it's getting a bit easier with time. Every time I do it, oh, it's because I've got no nails to grab it. There we go. You can hear it peeling off. So the paper's coming off, but it's leaving behind that little matrix of glue. You can feel that on there, but I don't know whether you can see if I show you. Can you see? The glue's on that side. So then when you cut out, when you then iron it again on the front side, it'll glue it to whatever's behind it. I'm not going to do it on my mat. So that's how you use the Bonder web. I hope that's clear. So that's us. I will carry on embroidering around this bird and then put it on something. And I will put pictures up on my own Facebook page, What Kate Made, Kate's Design and Craft. I'm sure they'll pop a link up for you. Anybody asking questions I haven't answered, I do go through it and watch myself back. I know I shouldn't, so I'll answer all your questions then. I think I've just more or less seen everybody's questions. So I will, as I say, I will finish both of these items. So my birds on the branch and my little bird patch that I'm going to put on something, and I will put pictures up on my Facebook page. I'll just pop you back up again so we can say goodbye properly. Hi. You've been looking at my hands for 45 minutes and now you can see my face again. Right, so I will pop those up and let you see what they look like when they're finished. I hope you have a go, particularly with the scrappy fabric on Bonder web. That's quite easy to do. And that would be nice to see that. If you've got a sewing machine, have a go at Crazy Quilting. It's just amazing. If you just bear with me, I'll show you one piece that I made. So you're not just going to, you can use other things. Now, my bird I showed you before, I've done some of the fancy embroidery stitches that are on my machine down its tail, but you don't have to do that. Or you can add beads. I did this a long time ago. I'm going to hold it up in front of my face because to get it on the camera. This has got beads, buttons, it's got different sorts of embroidery, it's got different fabrics. I'm really pleased with it. It's a heart shape that I've embroidered onto this lovely velvety furnishing fabric. So that's crazy quilting, and it's great. And that's one end of the scale, and this little bird's the other end of the scale. So I hope you have a go. If you want to post your pictures on my page so we can see, that'd be lovely. But thank you very much for joining me today. I'm aware we've taken up a lot of time. I'm back in a fortnight's time. I'll see you then.